Good morning, guys. Don Pelayo here. Today is Wednesday, November 5th, 2025. Um, well, we had some elections just last night. It went pretty much the way I expected it to. I wasn't real surprised. Of course, Mamdani won in the New York City mayoral race, which that's going to be interesting. I mean, you have a guy who's never really had a job who is now landing probably one of the hardest roles in the country. That's gonna be interesting. Um, Never mind his you know naive policies that I think he's intending to try to force on the city. I'm not real optimistic about New York. I think the biggest problem that New York is going to have, because New York's already lost a lot of, like, millions of people have left New York already because of the high taxes and the escalating crime issue there. I think the crime is going to get worse. I think well, he's already said the taxes are going to get worse. So, but I think how many people are left in New York that haven't already been shaken out? I think the people that are the millionaires and billionaires that are remaining in New York City are probably true believers, or mostly probably liberals themselves, and are willing to sit there and fund all of this. So I don't know how, I'm not as a lot. I've heard a lot of conservatives in the media say, "Oh, all these people are going to leave." I think most of the people that are going to leave have already left. There may be a few, I'm sure there's still going to be some outflow, but I don't think it's going to be as extreme as the Republicans keep acting like. That being said, I do think that crime is going to escalate, is going to get worse. I do think that the tax situation is going to get worse. The rent freezes and all these other policies are just pie in the sky. They're not going to work. So what people have to understand is there's not a free ride. All these people want to be provided for. We have way too many Americans right now that are looking for someone to provide them a standard of living. It doesn't work like that here. And there's too many people looking for that. Now, that being said, I do feel like too much of the benefits of capitalism, too much of the profits and the wealth that's being generated by capitalism is going to too few people. That's the reason why we have so many people looking for alternatives, because they don't feel like capitalism is benefiting them. So we, as free market capitalists, need to, people feel like they're being taken advantage of when they're grinding and working themselves. They're working very hard. People are working very hard. They're not getting anywhere, and then they see corporate executives and all of these, high income earners taking multiple millions of dollars in compensation, and people feel like they're being taken advantage of. And there's some truth to that. And I think that's where it needs to be fixed. I've said this before, but the Democrats, instead of having a No Kings rally, which was stupid, in my opinion, we don't have a king, never have had a king. Trump is not a king. He was elected by the people. There'll be a new election in 2028. I don't see him trying to hand his crown down to his sons or anything like that. So it didn't make any sense to me. That being said, we got some just have some issues with people depending too much on government. But we do need to have more of the benefits of capitalism flowing down to more people. We had a race in Virginia, which turned out about the way I thought it would. The Democrat won. Unfortunately, when you say Virginia, the direction that that state swings is all because of Washington D.C. If you didn't have Washington D.C. right there, Virginia would be a red state. Virginia is a red state except for those blue counties up there right around D.C. There are some, Richmond is blue, but if it wasn't for Washington D.C., Virginia it wouldn't even really be that close. It would be a pretty solid red state. But that being said, the Democrats have taken over the governor's mansion in Virginia. We have a Democrat governor here in North Carolina, so it just depends on the policies that they're trying to implement. Democrats, if you can get Democrats like that are somewhat sane, Bill Clinton, he had his weaknesses. But he was pretty. If you go back and look at his policies and stuff, he was at least somewhat sane. Some of these Democrats these days are just off their rockers, with some of the policies. But I mean, I could get on board with some of the moderate Democrat, especially their economic policies. I haven't liked many of their social policies for a long time, but at least on the economic side, I can get on board with some of their more moderate positions. I do feel like the Democrats are just off their rocker these days. Way, 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 way left of where I'm at. So California voted to approve the redistricting and all of that. Not a surprise. It's California. California is one of the bluest of the blue states. There are still conservatives that live in California. I don't really know why they stay there. I would have been gone a long time ago. But maybe this will cause them to leave. I know a lot of people from California have moved to Texas and some of the other western states. This might be a good opportunity to make your exit. I just have with no interest in being. I don't have any interest in even visiting these blue states. I have no interest in going to California. No interest in visiting I've been to New York City twice. I was there in 2000 and I was there in 2018. I did notice a big difference between the two times I was there, because the first time I was there, it was before 9/11. And when I went back in 2018, like the security and everything was a lot more, it was a lot stronger. There was a lot more security around. Times Square was a lot more, it's hard to explain. I didn't feel quite as safe in New York City in 2018 as I did in 2000. It already had kind of a vibe there, and I don't think that's going to get any better. I think it's already gotten worse since then, but I don't see that improving anytime soon. If you're in New York City, just don't stand too close to the subway tracks. You might get shoved or something. These people are nuts down there, up there. Anyway, so. Am I disappointed in the election results yesterday? Yeah. Am I surprised? Absolutely not. It went pretty much the way I was expecting. These Democrats are very angry they absolutely are rabidly, despise Trump and what he's trying to do. They don't like the crackdown on illegal immigration, which we're still determined to clear as many of these illegal immigrants out as we can. These Democrats are just going to have to deal with that, because we're going to continue to do that. If they're legal, if they're in the country legally, then there's no problem. But if they're here illegally, they need to go home. So that's kind of the way I see that. I look at it as if I used to live in Spain. If I went to Spain and just overstayed my passport, the U.S. passport allows you to stay for 90 days. If you stay longer than that, you're breaking the law there, and they can deport you. And to me, it should be exactly the same here. Why, so that's the way I look at it. Midterms will be interesting. It's going to be more of a we're going to get a better picture of where the country is next year, because all of these elections, really the main races that everybody was paying attention to were in blue states and blue areas. So North Carolina, where I live, we had some local mayoral races and things like that, but nothing significant. Um, so we'll see better. We'll get a better feel for things next year. Republicans have really got to focus on helping more people. It's just that the compensation is too much compensation is going to the top sliver of the population, and there's just not enough people benefiting from capitalism. And I still believe in capitalism. I would like to see a capitalism that we had back in the 50s and 60s, where we had a solid, vibrant middle class. That's what we need to get back to, and we just don't have that right now. Right now, it's like we have about 10, 15, 20% of the population that's just absolutely crushing it, and then there's everybody else that's struggling to survive. And that's not the way our country should be. And I say that as a free market capitalist. So anyway, that's my opinion. Make of it what you will. This is Don Pelayo checking out.